Welcome to the Cash Flow Project Podcast. Are you looking to better your financial situation by increasing your cash flow? Too busy to hunt for real estate deals or don't know where to start? Then you're in the right spot. Join us as we dive in and talk about investing for cash flow using multifamily real estate.
Welcome to the Cash Flow Project. I'm your host, Duc with Tri-City Equity Group. With me is my co-host, Steve Heroes. Today we have Jeff Holst on the show. Jeff is a recovering attorney who spends his time as a real estate investor. The story of overcoming adversity and prospering in the face of uncertainty makes him the perfect guest for today. Jeff has gone from riches to rags and back. He currently owns over 275 residential units and multiple commercial properties. He is married and travels extensively. In February of 2020, Jeff climbed Mount Kilimanjaro and stood at the highest point in Africa. He's a co-host and founder of the Last Life Ever podcast and is passionate about helping people live the best possible version of their lives. He's also the co-host of Old Fashioned Real Estate Show, where the hosts drink bourbon old fashions and talk about real estate investing. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, so how did you get started in your journey into real estate?
That's a long story. So I was one of those weird kids who loved real estate. So, I would sneak out of my bedroom late at night and watch Carlton Sheets No Money Down infomercials when I was like 14, 13. So I always wanted to be in real estate, but I didn't really get started in real estate for many, many years. I read lots of books. When I was just out of high school, Rich Dad, Poor Dad came out, and then I got the cash flow board game. And, I did all this stuff that you would do if you wanted to invest in real estate, but I just never got started until 2011. So it was a long, probably about 10 or 12 years of warm up before I got started into real estate.
So what is your why for building passive income?
Yeah, so in 2008, I actually was diagnosed with leukemia. So I was a bankruptcy attorney. And when I got sick, I ended up being forced into personal bankruptcy. So that was not exactly the most fun time for a bankruptcy attorney to be bankrupt. Sitting in front of the people that, you worked with regularly and saying, hey, I got to cash it in here. I'm done. Kind of made me reevaluate my priorities, and it motivated me to get started on what I wanted to do anyway, which was real estate. So I quit practicing law. I moved to Tennessee from Michigan and said to myself, since I didn't know I was going to live, I actually thought I was going to die at the time. I thought I got to figure out a way to make some money so that my wife will be okay if I die. And so I just started buying real estate as soon as I could after that.
So what does your portfolio consist of currently, and what markets are they in?
So I started buying in Michigan in 2011, mostly single family type stuff. And then in 2017, I transitioned to multifamily. So I have about 100 units still in Michigan, and then I have about 175 here in Chattanooga area. And then we have actually the building I'm in now, we own as an office building. And then we have a strip mall as well. And we just bought our very first industrial space like 2 weeks ago. So it's 100,000 square foot, single tenant, triple net play.
Nice. So how did you structure those deals? Are they like JVs, syndications, or?
Yes, all of them. I think I've structured it however it works. Everything I've ever done is with a partner. So I've never actually done a deal without a partner. Every time I think about doing a deal without a partner, I'm like, I can do more with people than I can without. So I just add people in. Some of the stuff is just straight JV stuff, especially the smaller deals, single families, duplexes, stuff like that. But we also have sort of our own creative strategy that we call Side 8 investing. It's named after the infinity symbol, sideways 8. And what we do with that is we will do a sort of hybrid debt equity play where we'll raise, we'll create a partnership group, 3-4 people, and 1 or 2 of the partners will put up all of the money in the form of additional debt to the company. So they'll loan the company whatever the down payment is, plus a capital reserve, and then we'll go start a new LLC under those terms. And then the 3 or 4 of us will all be active in the deal, but some of us will have put in more money than others. And so we do that a lot. As far as I know, I'm like the only person that really does it that way. It's kind of a unique structure, although I've been talking about it a lot, so people are probably copying me now. But that's a really great way to do it. And then we do a few syndications here and there too. Those are a bit more complicated, obviously, from a a legal perspective. And so we do those on the bigger deals. If we're going to raise $1 million or something, then we're looking at syndicating at that point.
So what's the advantage of that debt equity side H structure you're talking about?
Yeah, so the real advantage is it allows us to get into deals that are maybe too small to syndicate, but they're bigger than we could take down on our own, or that we don't have the capital to do at that exact time. So I'll give you an example. So there's a 16-unit apartment complex in North Georgia that we just sold. We paid $715,000 for it. We sold it for $1.3 million. We owned it for about 18 months. Bought it right before COVID. That deal, we needed about $150,000 down plus some capital for the for financing the construction and stuff like that, and we didn't really have enough capital to do it. So we had a couple of regular partners of ours put up $150,000 for the down payment, and then we paid them 6% interest on that. And then we partnered on buying the deal. So the company actually signs the note to them, right? So it would be like if the three of us decided to buy a deal together, and maybe I had more money than the two of you, but you guys had a really good deal, and we're looking at it and saying, yeah, let's do it. And then you say to me, but hey, God, we don't have the money. So I put in the money by loaning it to our joint company, a company that we own together. So it's kind of like I said, debt equity. It's I get some equity. Maybe in my hypothetical, we'd each have a third of the deal, but you guys would not have put any money in. And so for me, when I can get into a deal like that, where I can, maybe because I found the deal or whatever, I can get into it without putting money in, it can be really lucrative in the long run. With the example of the 16 unit that we just sold, I ended up with 40% of the deal, none of the money in, and that close, get a pretty nice paycheck because of that. And 40% of the cash flow and everything like that during the time of ownership too. So
nice. Yeah, that sounds like a excellent way to handle those smaller deals.
Yeah, I mean, you do have to be careful because you don't want to accidentally be in the realm of securities, right? So they have to be active. I mean, everyone has to be actively involved. What you don't want to do is create a situation where your partners are not really partners; they're just limited partners, or they're passive investors. In that scenario, you really do need to go through a securities offering. And, if you're not sure about any of that stuff, get good legal advice, right? Find an attorney that understands it and make sure they're the ones structuring your deal. That's what we always do. I never try to do these on my own. I might say to my attorney, hey, I want to do it this way. What do you think? And then they'll sometimes be like, yeah, that'll work. And other times no, don't do that. And I just take their advice. Even though I am an attorney, I know very little about securities law. So I rely on experts in that field.
So where do you think the future of real estate is heading?
Well, I mean, there's that's a broad question. So some areas of real estate I'm a little bit questioning, especially high-rise office buildings and stuff. I don't think those are coming back. Those are going to need to be converted to something else. Same with shopping malls. The big shopping malls have a lot of demographic issues and technology issues that are really going to mitigate the demand for that stuff. But in general, there's so much money being pumped into the economy in the US and frankly, worldwide, that I see inflation coming. And with inflation comes rising prices. So for me right now, my goal is just to borrow as much money as I can. They're loaning us money at 3 or 4%. And inflation is, they say 5 or 6%, but I think it's more like 10 or 15. Well, if you can borrow money below the rate of inflation, it's not too hard to reinvest it at a rate higher than you're borrowing it at. And so I look at it like this: if somebody could give me $100,000 today, and I went and bought $100,000 worth of toilet paper, and I waited a year, I could sell that $100,000 worth of toilet paper for $110,000 and pay them back $105,000, and I'm really happy, right? So obviously it's better to get cash flowing assets and long-term debt and all the things that create safety. But right now, borrowing is probably a good strategy.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the curious part about what we've got going on, right? The dynamics of our economy in these times is so crazy with all the money printing and the inflation, and yeah, I mean, it's here, right? So
Yeah, and I don't think it's going away either, right? So, and I mean, it's one of those things where, like, I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know for sure what's going to happen. I mean, I'm friends with people that have been predicting crashes for, literally for decades, right? Um, you've got these big name economic forecasters that are like saying we're way overdue for a correction. That might be true, but with all the money out there, I don't. It's got to go somewhere, and that to me that supports rising rents, supports rising wages, it supports rising values. And so for me, if you can borrow money at fixed rates and fixed amounts of money, it's not like if there's inflation, like you pay back that debt at a cheaper, with cheaper dollars in the future. So, and that seems to be what's happening right now. So I don't know why the banks, frankly, are lending money below the rate of inflation. Oh, I mean, I know why the local banks are. It's because they're borrowing even lower, from the Fed. But I don't get why the Fed's continuing to keep rates so artificially low. I guess they're really afraid of the state of the economy, and I mean, who knows, right? We'll see what happens. That's why I let the people with the economics degrees do that kind of stuff, and I just sort of like figure if I keep buying stuff that cash flows, I'll be all right.
Yeah, I always kind of think of it as it's real estate in general, right? And just any kind of hard assets. It's like that's the life raft, right? Because it's going to continue to float. And yeah, that's the tough part. It's like, man, the people that are not investing right now, man, you are losing. Do not hold on to money. Just like have money sitting in in the bank, not doing anything. So that's a bad strategy.
Yeah, I mean, I used to laugh at Grant Cardone when he would say cash is trash. I'd be like, what are you talking about? Cash is like a safety measure. But honestly, kind of is trash. Right? Like, I almost rather have that toilet paper from my earlier example than cash at this point, because it's at least useful. Yeah. And I mean, and there's a lot of people that are onto this, right? I mean, you've got Kiyosaki talking about how all money's fake for like the last 3 years, and he wrote that book Fake well before this current round of I think we're up to 7 trillion in stimulus money now in the US in the last 24 months. That's, about 40% of all the money ever produced came out in the last 2 years. I mean, that's just insane.
Yeah, it's unheard of. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. Well, kind of transitioning a little bit back to kind of some of what you've got holding. Like, I know you mentioned North Georgia. I've heard you say that before. You're based out of Atlanta right now, right? Or where
I'm in Chattanooga, Tennessee, so I'm like 2 hours north of Atlanta. Yeah, I mean, the North Georgia stuff that I invest in is really Chattanooga. It's like 15, 20 minutes from downtown Chattanooga, that kind of stuff. I really actually stay in a pretty tight radius down here because I don't have resources to manage stuff very far away. And the stuff that I buy is mostly smaller multis. So like 10 to 40 unit buildings. They're kind of they stay under the radar for the big syndicators, and but they're a little bit harder to manage. So you really have to have good, management assets. And we have that here in Chattanooga. So I don't mind investing here. And same with, Metro Detroit. My partner in Detroit has a property management company. And so the 100 or so units that we have together up there, he manages those. So I feel very comfortable with that. And I mean, I continue to buy in both those markets. And I also I'm a really strong believer in only investing in markets you really, really have a deep level of knowledge about. I think that the more information you have, the better positioned you are to mitigate risk. And if you can mitigate risk, that's where you get the best returns, because, the market rewards people that accept risk. But the market doesn't care if I can mitigate the risk or not. I get the same return regardless of how good I am at mitigating risk. So if I can build deep knowledge about a market, I mean, I can be the expert on small multifamilies in Chattanooga. I can't be the expert on, 150 unit buildings in Dallas. I mean, maybe I can, but I'm not that expert, right? So I don't buy those because it's not my thing. Right now, I'm looking at a couple of different markets that I think are really interesting. And, once I dive into them deep. And I mean, I told the guys off the air, I'm getting ready to move to Puerto Rico. That's one of the reasons why I'm moving there. Is I think there's a tremendous opportunity. I think the mainland's sleeping on Puerto Rico right now. Might become a state. If it becomes a state, you guys know what happened in Hawaii when it became a state. I mean, the property values went up like crazy. If it doesn't become a state, they've got this tax haven status that's driving a lot of wealth to the island. And for the first time in 2 decades, they have a stable population. They had a declining population for 20 years, and now it seems to have stabilized. Not until 2019. So the data is a little bit questionable because of COVID. We don't really know. But I mean, that's why I'm going to go investigate the island, see where the opportunity is, and hopefully start investing there.
I love that. That's cool, right? It's like, okay, when we go to a tropical island paradise, I got to go do some investigation here for a stretch. I'll be down here, guys.
Well, I mean, and the thing
That's
is,
right.
like, it's also a great place to live, right? So,
Right.
I mean, I rented a place, like, I haven't even bought a place for myself, but I rented a place about 3 weeks ago in Isla Verde, which is like right near the airport in San Juan. And I've got a beach view of a 2-mile white sand beach from my balcony. I'm 150 feet from, turquoise blue water. Like that, there's nothing like that in Chattanooga. And my rent is roughly the same as my mortgage is here. So, I mean, like it seems kind of like a no-brainer. I can sell my house now. The market's stupid hot, right? So I can get a pile of cash, pay my rent for a year in advance, and I can go reinvest that in something that's more productive than, a single family house that I live in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, that's one of the challenges about being out here in Hawaii. It's like it's got all of those great, beautiful things, right, about being a parent, but it's very expensive. I know, we kind of briefly talked about that off air, but yeah, Puerto Rico is like the flip side of that coin, right? It's like, no, yeah, it's still,
super cheap. Actually, you can still buy single family houses in decent areas for under $100,000 in Puerto Rico.
Wow.
And people are buying houses 30 cents on the dollar to flip them too. I mean, the market is it's actually pretty insane. I probably shouldn't tell people this until I've soaked up a bunch of the island, but I'm one of these guys that believes in sharing opportunity. So, come, bro, let's bring the island up together. You guys should come down and start investing in Puerto Rico. It seems like a great opportunity.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, we've never been that direction. We love my family, and I love to travel too. So similar to you in that vein, but we might have to go check that out. Now, I know I've heard you share your story before. Awesome story. I know you just kind of really high level, shared it with our audience here. But how much of that still your kind of life experience going down that kind of health crisis, health journey? How much does that still drive you? I know that happened, a stretch back, but does that still
yeah, so it's a daily motivation for me. So I have controlled but non-remission leukemia. So I have to take a 1-a-day oral chemotherapy. So it's not super invasive. It doesn't cause me to lose my hair or like vomit or any of the stuff that the really bad chemos and radiations can do. But I do have to take a pill every day, and every day when I think about it, and it has like these emergency labels on it. It says, like caution, like toxic, to handle with gloves. And I'm going, I got to put this in my mouth. Like they don't want me to touch it, but I got to swallow this thing, So, it's a daily reminder of your own mortality. And so it does actually impact my decision-making, and things like moving to Puerto Rico. It was like earlier this year, I got diagnosed with melanoma, and I was like, great, 2 cancers. This is amazing. Right. And I was actually on the way to Puerto Rico. Like I got diagnosed with melanoma the day before I was going to Puerto Rico. And I met up with a real estate guy I know in Puerto Rico when I'm there. Because even when I'm on vacation, I do real estate, right? That's how I am. So I'm talking to this guy, and he's telling me about the opportunity. And I'm like, I'm moving to Puerto Rico. I decided like on the spot. I actually went home and I was there with a friend, my partner from Old Fashioned Real Estate, actually. I went home and I started a YouTube channel, and I made a video. The very first video I made was, "Don't tell my wife I'm moving to Puerto Rico." And then I just sent it to my wife. I like this video. I just put it up online, and then I sent it to her. And she was like, "What? We're moving to Puerto Rico?" And I'm like, "Yep." She's like, "I assume I'm coming, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds like a good plan." And then she said to me, "Well, it seems a bit abrupt, but whatever. If you want to move to Puerto Rico, let's just do it. If we can afford it, let's go." And then she was like, but I'll have to quit my job. And I'm like, well, yeah, she works in retail. So like it'd be a long commute, right? And I said, yeah, I know. And she said, so that means I'm going to do the Appalachian Trail, like the 6-month, like 2,100 mile Appalachian Trail. And I'm like, okay, all right, if you say so. So, we're a little bit weird because my reaction was like, all right, have fun, go walk in the woods for 6 months. Like, that'll be great. But, we've lived our lives this way so long, it's not abnormal for us. Like, I wasn't even really that shocked when she said if she was quitting her job, she was going to take 6 months of hiking in the woods. I was just like, oh, okay. I was shocked, however, when my mother-in-law decided to join her. I didn't see that one coming. So
that's awesome, though. That's awesome. And like, I think that's one of those things, right? Like, you're having your time back, right? Like the freedom of being able to do that. I mean, there's you're not going to get that in a 9-to-5 job.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It's
been life-changing for me. So I started investing in real estate, like I said, originally was because I wanted my wife to be taken care of. She had put me through law school, literally, but like she helped support me while I was in law school by working. And the deal was that I would make more money than her, and then she wouldn't have to work as hard, right? And then that wasn't going to happen because I was going to die. So I'm like, well, I got to figure this out. I just got to buy some real estate right now. And think about this too. I started buying real estate 6 months after filing bankruptcy, and I had no savings, and I had a regular job, right? Like a corporate job. And I was still like, in the middle of 2010, 11 was like not exactly the easiest market to like start investing in real estate. I mean, in retrospect, I wish I bought even more because the market was stupid cheap then. But we just were like, we got to figure this out. But when I got to 2017 and I was able to quit my job and really like just do real estate, that's when my life became like so much better, right? Because at that point I could, like you said, you can just take off I went for a month to Puerto Rico earlier this year because I thought I might want to move there, right? And then I went to Africa for a month in 2020, right before COVID hit. And I would have gone, even like I would have done another trip last year, but for COVID. And next year, like a month and a half from now, we're going to Antarctica. Like, that's awesome. Just being able to do stuff like that. I mean, who does that? Like, besides people that have financial freedom, it's like impossible to do those things.
Yeah, that's super, super, super cool. My last quick question before we transition to kind of our next section. What's your favorite bourbon?
My favorite bourbon. Listen, it's a kind of cliche, but I really like Pappy, right? I just can't afford it and I can't find it. So I normally drink Blanton's. So that's the thing I do now. It's, $100 a bottle. It's a little bit easier to find than Pappy, and it's a lot cheaper. So
very nice. Very cool. Awesome.
Right.
If we catch up with you in Puerto Rico, maybe we'll grab a drink.
Well,
together.
In Puerto Rico, we got to drink rum, right?
Rum.
Like it's a rum island. So, I mean, Bacardi's made there. I'm not suggesting we drink Bacardi. Although Bacardi is cheaper than water in Puerto Rico. I think it's like $6 a fifth. It's just stupid cheap there. But there's a lot of great rum bars in Puerto Rico, especially in Old San Juan. There's a lot of really cool things to do.
So let's transition to the fire round. What's the best book that you recommend other than Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
That's a great question. Real estate or just in general?
Real estate.
Okay. I'll tell you the one I recommended on the Bigger Pockets podcast, and that's Total Recall by Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Why is that?
Most people don't think of that as a real estate book because it's like his autobiography, but he made his first million in apartment complexes.
All right. What is your superpower?
I never have bad days. I haven't had a bad day since I was 17.
Great. Yeah, it's a great outlook on life.
It works pretty well for me.
What is the biggest lesson you've learned over your career?
I think that the secret to being successful is taking action as soon as practical, right? So not like right away, don't just like gamble on stuff, but like once you have a reasonable amount of information, you have to take action. It's really easy to overanalyze stuff. So I actually wear this wristband that says, ready, fire, aim. It's like, get ready and then take your shot. And then you can always adjust afterwards.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So for the busy working professional working towards financial freedom, what advice do you have?
Invest in real estate as soon as possible. And then as soon as possible after that, invest in multifamily real estate. Get above 5 units because then you can force appreciation. And I mean, honestly, like, if I could do it over again, I probably could have retired in like 1 year. Like that's how easy it is to make money in the small multifamilies. It's kind of stupid.
Great advice. How can our audience get in touch with you?
I'm all over social media, mostly under the name Jeffrey Holst with REY. So Instagram, Facebook, any of those places. But where I'm most passionate is actually in the Last Life Ever private group on Facebook, which is just about living the best possible version of your life. It's not a real estate thing, but it is where we like to hang out and talk about, travel and mindset and all that kind of stuff.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Man, that was such an awesome show with Jeff. He's got such a cool story, and if you guys get a chance to check it out, listen to kind of his whole story. That's awesome, and just him sharing about having medical challenges with leukemia and still fighting that, and still finding a way to be able to make it work both for himself, for his family, finding different ways to invest in real estate. So obviously he's got his hands in multiple facets of real estate, industrial, multifamily, residential as well. Great episode. And what an awesome way. He's got such a great way to keep a wonderful perspective. And I've heard him mention that before, where he just, he decided at some point to never have a bad day. Well, how good can your life be if you decide, every day is a great day. And you kind of get that new lease on life, I think, with maybe facing some health challenges. So I think that's a great takeaway, I think, for today and kind of the way things are going. You know what? Regardless of what's going on in the world, it's still a good day. All right. Well, guys, if you enjoyed, listening to the show, of course, make sure that you're telling other people about the podcast. We would love, a review as well on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening to the podcast. If you're interested in actually investing with us, obviously with any kind of multifamily deals, go check out tricityequity.com for details and on how to connect with us. To connect with other like-minded investors, check out our Facebook group. Go ahead and join that. Honolulu Multifamily and More. A little bit of a mouthful. Great way to be able to connect with other people who are looking to make moves in their lives to make their lives better and for those around. And so we'd also want to make sure that we continue to remind people about our upcoming conference. Again, another great way to be able to network and connect with people. And you can do it here in beautiful Hawaii. We're talking about our conference, the Hawaii Millionaire Mindset Conference. Of course, it's going to be happening next year, July 21st through the 24th, out at the Four Seasons in Colina. Never been. Beautiful, right on the water. It's going to be an awesome time with being able to network and meet other like-minded individuals. Again, top industry professionals. You'll be able to come and take away some awesome gems. So go find out more information about that at the millionairemindsetblueprint.com. We'll be sure to leave it in the show notes to go find out more. But all right, guys, hope you had an awesome day, and we will see you next time.